Hello and welcome to episode 112 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we are a source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. Couple of regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
And this week is the episode right before the new set comes out. So March of the Machine comes out tomorrow, or more so like when this episode comes out, it'll be like maybe a day earlier. But we haven't played it yet on Arena, and so we're going to talk about all the cards we are excited about for this set, as well as our no pass lists. But before we get to that, Jeff, each week we both bring a beer. We drink Jeff's, then drink mine, rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So what is on tap?
Okay. Been waiting a while for this. A few weeks ago, I went to Ottawa. I brought some beers back with me. This was one of them. This is called The Darkness. It's an oatmeal stout from a place called Beyond the Pale. I have had this before, so a few times actually. So I was mostly curious what you would think of it. Beyond the Pale is like they're well known in Ottawa, but basically, as the name suggests, they kind of tend to do more interesting stuff. So it's like Beyond the Pale Ale kind of thing is. And up until recently, they actually had no normal beers. So
really?
this was like their most normal beer on the menu, but everything else was like super weird. Then they recently, I think, decided to dial that back a bit and made a pale ale and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Wait. They made a pale ale, but they're beyond the pale? Wow.
Yeah. Well, it could be Pale. They could have changed their name to Pale and Beyond.
Okay. All right. Well, no, I think we did one of their beers on the show, and I was looking it up, and it was their Cosmic Latte, which is like a golden ale with like cacao nibs and stuff. So they definitely do some wacky stuff.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I'm excited for this oatmeal stout. Let's crack it open. All right. So, with that, we do have some Magic news. As I said before, the set is coming out this week. Very excited for that. There was the pre-release this weekend, so maybe some of you got out to pre-releases. I got to, so I'll talk about that in just a moment. Though this weekend, as they've been doing this recently, whenever a set comes out, the weekend that it's out, they have a standard metagame challenge. So that's happening this weekend, April 21st to the 24th. So if you get any 7-win runs in that, post it in our Discord channel, which the link are in the show notes. But that's pretty cool. I like that. Like, they're fitting into this cadence of like the set comes out, we do a metagame challenge to see how like people get to like a cool way to test out your brews.
Yeah, these events are super fun. Like if you get a chance to play in them, I recommend it. And you're at that skill level where you feel comfortable jumping into one of these.
Mm-hmm.
You get, I would say for me, from my perspective, you get a surprising amount of people playing new decks. Like when I think of one of these, I think like, oh, it's a competitive high value thing. Everyone's just going to bring old standards decks rather than risking anything. But actually, my experience hasn't been that. It's been like, oh, I get to play against like new decks. That's
good. Fun. Yeah, I don't always, whatever stuff doesn't line up, so I don't always get to play in the standard ones. But that's really good to hear because they're lots of fun, and they're like of the events on Arena, you have the largest prize besides like Arena Open.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, you'll run into Grixis that has maybe one new card in it, maybe.
Yeah.
That will happen. But you'll run into like, it's not just that, which is kind of what I was expecting the first time I did it. It's like, oh, why would people in this competitive event, everyone's just going to be sharky and like play a deck they know is good to prey on the people with new decks. And that wasn't my experience.
Yeah. So check it out. I think the top prize is 30 packs. So that's awesome. Also, the following weekend, so April 29th to the 30th, is the Arena Open, which is another great competitive event. It's the same thing they've been doing, so it's March of the Machine Limited, and then the midweek Magic next week will be a practice, so it's like March of the Machine Phantom Sealed going into that. So we're getting into our regularly scheduled programming, which I really like. I think that they've found the sweet spot of what to do as sets release.
Yeah, this is awesome with the Phantom Seals right before the Arena Open, which is another high stakes limited event. It took them, you know, a while to
A long
find this
time.
groove, but we're there now and it's great.
Yeah, I think it's really good. It's like we've been praising them the last few times they've done it, and it just feels like this is the way it should be. And it really
Right.
gets like these 2 weeks before the arena open, it's just like play as much as you can and learn all the stuff you can before the arena open. And then after the arena open, we're like, wow, actually, there are these other decks we didn't know about because these people were doing other things. So really
Yeah, I think
exciting.
that's my favorite part. Is like after the Arena Open, we learned so much about the format because 2 weeks is like bang on the right kind of time
Yeah,
to
exactly.
the
It's
format.
where like everyone has the same base understanding, but like you haven't been able to get deep enough into it yet. Especially
Mhm.
with this fucking set, because holy shit, we're gonna talk about some stuff, but like,
Yeah.
oh baby. Um. Anyway,
We're just going to talk about comments because all the other cards have too much text. And
it's so much. So I'm just gonna quickly talk about my pre-release because I went to a paper pre-release, like I like to do if I can. Jeff, did you get out to one? Were you able to go to one?
no,
Yeah, I'm sure there's Hamilton. Not that Hamilton game stores aren't good,
we have free releases. I'm sure I didn't look into it really.
but I went to Face to Face, which is like the premier game store here in Canada, and I got together with some friends. It was great. We got to open our stuff and do everything. But I I usually pride myself on like unsealed decks. I don't have that hard of a time putting together a deck. I can pretty much figure it out and know exactly. Like I find my lane pretty quickly, and I could not. You can talk to our friend Max, who's been on the show. I was building my deck across from him, and I was going just spiraling like, oh, buddy, it was not good. I think I built three different red decks. Like I built Boros, and then I was building Gruul, and then I built Rakdos. And then as I was sleeving up Rakdos with 5 minutes left on the clock, I completely pivoted and I played Abzan. uh, and so I didn't even get to lay out my cards before I played my first game. I just slapped enough cards that were so I had the correct number, and then never looked back. And I blame you, Jeff. Actually, I blame you specifically because as I'm sleeving up this Rakdos deck, and like I'm looking at a bunch of rares, I'm like, oh my red, I think I have to play red. And then I look over at one card. And I'm like, Jeff's gonna be so mad if I don't play this card. I was like, I have to play this card. And I look at it again, and as I'm like halfway sleeving up this Rakdos deck, and I'm like, Jeff, you son of a bitch. Fuck you. I was like, fuck you. Fine, I'll do it. Because if I open this card and I don't play it, Jeff's going to be so mad. And so I got Thalia and the Gitrog monster.
I knew
And
it.
so I was like, just throw together this thing. And I was like, okay, let's play. Um,
Yeah,
it was,
you made the right choice.
yeah, it was very stressful. But it ended up working out. I went 2-1. Um, so that was it. Strangely worked, but overall, I think that I had looked at some of the cards beforehand, but boy, was it really hard to evaluate stuff and like read everything because my mind felt like just just mush.
Yeah,
It was a
that's
lot.
definitely interesting because, like, you, I think we both tend to build sealed decks pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's like we build them too quickly or not, I don't know. That's another discussion.
Yeah,
But I always see other people like, oh, I narrowed it down to 6 different options. And I was like, really? I pretty much knew what my colors were within 2
at the
minutes
very
of
beginning. Yeah,
once I like laid out all my cards. I was like, well, it's gonna be like red white. Um, and whenever that happens to me, the like spiraling, last minute changing, all that kind of thing, it usually indicates like either a super weird pool, but more likely just like a really complicated set. Like this one certainly is. So I know
oh,
exactly the feeling. And back in the day, I used to play in like paper PTQ sealed events, which I'm pretty sure you had like 20 minutes to build. So it was like
crunch time.
it
Like
yeah, that's part of what developed my extremely fast sealed. Like you have to narrow it down to what deck you're going to play very quickly.
Hmm.
Um, and I've had a few like that where I was just like, okay, yeah, super confident it's cool carry.
Hmm.
And then when they're like, okay, 5 minutes left, make sure you should, at this point, you should be double checking your deck list that you filled it out correctly and all that. And I'm like, I think the Azorius deck was better.
Yeah.
Like, full switch.
Oh,
So those are always super fun, but yeah, stressful
it
as
was
well. And
stressful.
then the whole tournament, you're like, I know it's a pre-release, so it's probably less of a big deal, but it's like, I wonder how the other deck would have done here.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes you get in the situation where you're like you were saying, you have your Golgari deck, but then the Azorius one you're playing. You can build both of those decks and switch between them and between games if you want.
Yeah.
Um, at least in pre-releases. Um, for this, because of the way that my colors were laid out, I wasn't playing Is It or Abzan. It was like, I need to like rip up my whole deck to do a sideboard to see what the other deck would be like.
Right. Yeah, that's different when
Um,
there's the overlapping color.
yeah. Though, as I was de-sleeving my deck, I see that I left one of my best 2 drops in my sideboard the whole game. So that was good. Or whole pre-release. So anyway, it
You
was
identified that 2 drops weren't important in this format.
no.
Wisely kept it in the
Yeah,
sideboard.
no. I actually lost to that 2 drop later by someone else playing it. And I was like, that is a good card. I've seen that card. And I was like, oh, fuck, I
Yeah,
have
that
that
card's
card.
so familiar for some
Yeah,
reason.
so anyway, it was a difficult and stressful pre-release, especially because in paper, so did you know that they're doing this? In paper, you like can't play with all the cards that you get.
Mm.
So in the box, you are given not only your regular promo, but also a commander only promo. Did you know this?
Wow, I
Yeah.
did not.
There are like 3 different legendary creature team ups that are just commander cards, and they're just in your pre-release kit. And the store people have to be very loudly, don't put the card in your deck. You're not allowed to play with that card. It's just for fun. But it's not something that they hand out, because they also hand out promos, which is easy
Right.
to remember. But like when it comes in your box, it's confusing to me. Um, so
Yeah, I like that though. Like if I'm understanding it correctly, it's not a card in the set,
no, it's a card in the commander set.
so no one it can't. It's not one of those weird things where it's like, no, I opened this. I swear, this isn't the one that I got.
No, the
Yeah, it's
symbol
like,
is different. Yeah.
yeah, it's like okay,
Mhm.
obviously, if
And
anyone plays that, you
everyone knows
probably
the
judge
3 cards
over.
that they are, so it's not like
Right.
you could just be like, you can't play that. But it's, to me, it just seems strange to do that. But I don't know. We'll see. I think
They used to do that where like your promo was like this is way back. I'm talking a long ass time ago, but your
Mhm.
promo was stamped with the date,
Yeah.
and you couldn't play that in your deck. Mostly just because everyone got the same one. Then
Oh, gotcha.
they later switched it so that you could play it, and they made it like a choose your thing. So you chose Silumgar. So
Oh, so
you
you
get a
get
Silumgar
that
or whatever.
thing. Yeah.
And then they changed it so that it's just kind of random. It's like randomly seeded, and you
Hmm.
can play with your pre-release. But like back in my day, back in like Fifth Dawn pre-release, everyone got Shield of Caldra, and nobody was allowed to play the stamped Shield of
Shield of
Caldra.
Caldra. Yeah.
But it was kind of awkward because you could open a Shield of Caldra that looked identical, except for the little stamp
Hmm.
that said the date. And so I don't know, you'd get like people just playing
Saying,
it. Yeah.
yeah, whatever. Yeah, that's annoying.
Even though it was like gold foil, like it was pretty obvious that the
Yeah.
date was like
It's
in gold on there.
definitely
But
it's definitely better now, and I like that they do the, even, they used to do the stamp. I know everyone, we're not talking about arena right now, but like now I'm just talking about pre-releases. But they used to do the stamp that was like the actual date of the weekend, so it'd be like
yeah,
you know the 3 days or whatever. And now they have the stamp that's just the year.
okay,
Which, for anyone who didn't know, that the reason that they did that is because during COVID, due to like product delays in different countries, the dates would be wrong. So then
mm-hmm.
they'd have to push pre-releases, and your stamped promo was the wrong weekend. And then they're just like, you know what? Fuck this. It's so much easier. Just do the stamp of the year. Um,
And hope we don't have to push it
yeah,
so that doesn't
and
make sense.
yeah, but like it's a bit harder to push from like November all the way to January, I think.
Yeah.
But and as usual, at first I thought the stamp looked terrible and didn't like that idea. But then, of course, it
Classic
looks
change. I
perfectly
hate
fine.
change until a month after the
Yeah,
change.
because I can also just like look up on the internet when the pre-release was, and that's when I went. So anyway, oh, but with that all being said, I am excited and interested for the set. I want to know the cards better. I want to know them through playing them, so I don't have to read them because there's several battles where I'm just like, which one is this again? Is this?
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
battle's confusing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So man, we will be doing this episode a little bit differently than we have in the past. Though to kind of explain that, Jeff, do you want to talk about our no pass lists and what that is, and a concept everyone should be familiar with and practice? This is the perfect time to make this.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is at this point, I'm going to say flat out wrong idea floating around out there of rare drafting, that you shouldn't take rares that you want in a draft because that hurts your chances of doing well in the draft, or it's not honorable or something. Frankly, I don't really know why
Rares that you want
like,
that don't fit your deck. So
right, sorry. Yeah, if you want the rare and it's good in your deck, you take it. But
obviously,
the question is around if there's a rare in the pack that you want, but it's not good in your deck. It's like different colors. Say you're in Demir and you open a red rare. There's this idea in the community that you should not take that red rare. Not sure why, but it's something that a lot of people are pushing. Here, we think the exact opposite.
Yes.
You should absolutely take that red rare. Now, where does this get confusing?
Yes.
Is if you're in a pack and you don't know if you want that red rare, you don't know how good it is, and then you don't know how good the other card is because the set's new, you're reading everything, you're like, oh crap, that rare looks kind of cool, but do I actually want it for any decks I'm going to play, et cetera, et cetera. And so you don't know what to do, and you're panicking, and the arena timer is winding down, and you're like, oh, I don't know. So we advise just set it out ahead of time. Look through the set, decide on what rares you think are really cool, and you would definitely take over any card, no matter how good it is in your deck. And we call that our no pass list. You would never pass this card. It's
Ever.
a no pass.
Yep.
And so we like to make that list ahead of time so that when we're in those panicky situations, and in this set, it's going to be more important than ever with all the text. Just make sure you know what rares you want, and then you get to relax. Everyone else is panicking, but you see the rare you want, you click it, you get to wait there for like 60 seconds while the timer winds down.
Yep.
And read all the other cards.
That's true. Or click it and just skip immediately so you don't have to feel bad about any of the other cards that you're missing out on, which is sometimes what I do. In this also situation,
a good option.
Yeah, if you're playing Demir and you see like a murder or a removal spell and this like Chandra Planeswalker, but it might not actually see play anywhere. Maybe Chandra's not a good example. Maybe
not
like
for this set, it's not the best example.
Okay, but maybe just like a random red rare that's City on Fire is a red rare that's like looks cool, but I don't know if it's going to be good or useful at all.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you take the murder. But it's good to know ahead of time. And especially good to know because I forgot to talk about this during the pre-release thing, and you probably maybe didn't remember, I'm not sure, but we have a whole bonus sheet of legendary creatures in every single pack, which makes everything so much more confusing. Because when you're playing at a pre-release for March of the Machine, you don't usually expect to play against Garuda as well as Skithrix and get poisoned out by them also stealing your own, what is it, the Finn the Fangbearer. So I lost to poison at the March of the Machine pre-release.
That's pretty awesome, though.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck when he played the Skithrix? I'm like,
kudos to your opponent for killing you that way. That's amazing.
Yes. So anyway, it can be confusing because many packs will have multiple rares in them, which will also become a thing. However, most of the time, I prefer to get the new rare over the older ones because a lot of times you have those ones. So
Yeah, it's a good call out. But yeah, for that list, you're mostly looking at, I guess, very specific explorer or historic cards that you want.
yeah,
You should be able to narrow that down pretty quick if you take a look at what's available.
and as well as that, uh, there are I believe that Ragavan originally was going to be in historic, but has been banned.
Yeah, he's been pre-banned.
Yes. So don't take that card thinking that you can play that in historic because you cannot.
So what, you could play that in like historic brawl, maybe? It's the only thing that it could be
Yes.
played in on
Yeah, it could be your commander. Oh no, that sounds horrible.
That sounds
Oh,
bad.
turn one, every turn one you get your. Yeah, but you can play it in the draft. I don't know if it's great in the draft, but probably. Oh gosh. Anyway, that is our quick discussion about that. We're not going to go through all of our lists this episode. We've done that in the past. However, we just want to talk about whatever we want to talk about. And if a card comes up, it's part of our no pass list. We'll just bring it up and just mention that. Especially because this set doesn't have our favorite no pass list card, which is any dual rare land. Rare dual land. That's the way to say it. Yeah. Which is weird.
Yeah. It's been a while, I feel like. I was thinking about that when we were looking over, preparing for this. It's like, wait, no rare duels?
Not even no rare duels, but like we haven't ever had a set that was on the show where we didn't want one of the rare lands. Because I think Adventures of the Forgotten Realms was the only set that it wasn't a dual rare land, but it was a creature land that we wanted. So yeah, I can't.
I mean, I wanted a lot of creature lands from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, those. And all the channel lands from Kamigawa. So yeah, it's just
true. Yeah.
There
are no rare lands in this.
It feels so weird. So trying to figure out what is the cards you want. It's usually that's just 10 right off the bat, but
that's right.
I don't know.
At least 5.
Or at least 5. Yeah. But anyway, so through all of that, before we really get into cards, Jeff, I do want to talk about some of the new mechanics because we've been talking about this card type for a long time, and we haven't sat down and really discussed how we feel about on the show. It's a new card type, battles. So, Jeff, how are we thinking about battles? What's going on? What is a battle? What is this thing?
All right. So a battle is something that a player plays. It's a permanent, and it has life, essentially.
They're like defend counters or something.
Right, defend counters, because they can't call it life. It does something when it enters the battlefield, and then when it runs out of life, it flips into something. Or maybe they don't necessarily flip. Like, and they actually don't have to, but the ones in this set, they all do. The ones in this set in particular are sieges, a subtype of battle. And basically you play them and they are then go to your opponent's side of the battlefield and you can attack. You attack them. I think the base battle type is something that generally it's going to be like on your side and your opponent attacks it, and it gives you some sort of benefit and they can kill it, is sort of like the baseline. And they started with the weird version, basically, is what happened.
Which I think is, I that was a big choice to be like, hey, let's add, not only are we starting with a new card type, but also a subtype of that card type is how we're introducing this card type. But I like that they're like, you know what? It makes the most sense with the set, and this is how we're going to do it. So I'm great. I'm great with that part.
So maybe an example helps here.
Okay.
So Invasion of Asgol. I chose this one because it seems to have the least amount of text. And the card image gallery, by the way. I have to do this to read it. So, Invasion of Asgol. Black-red for a battle siege with 4 defend counters. When it enters the battlefield, target player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker and loses 1 life. So 2 mana, I play this, presumably my opponent, but I could target myself, sacrifice a creature or a planeswalker. When you kill it, so when you deal 4 damage to it, I start attacking this Invasion of Azkul. When I deal 4 damage to it, it turns into Ashen Reaper, which is a 2/1 menace. Beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on it if a permanent was put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn. And that Ashen Reaper is, of course, on my side of the battlefield. So I kill the battle, it exiles, and then I cast it on my side of the battlefield.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how sieges work.
Yeah. And they're not always creatures, but that's a really good example. A lot of the time they are creatures, but they can be enchantments.
I would say most of them are like the majority are creatures, but
yeah, there's enchantments, there are sorceries, there are planeswalkers. There's a lot of different things it can be. So the design space is large. However, usually they don't do this to us. Most of the time they slowly build on things where they're like, you know what, here's a thing, it only flips into a creature, there you go. Or like when they were showing us MDFCs, they're like, here's all these creatures, the backside's always a land, always. This is not the case that they did. They just kind of went straight to Strixhaven and Call Time, where they're like, hey, it's like an object of some kind, or their friend or something, or it's the other half of their, I don't know, teacher partner. This is just very confusing, because most of the time I was like, oh, it's a creature, and I flip it over, I'm like, that's not a creature. Okay, so that's just some equipment. Okay, so do I even want this? I don't even want to flip this. Like,
yeah.
when you're trying to figure out which ones are good, I think, and we were talking about this before, but like the way to talk about battles is really, do you want the front side of the card? And if you want that effect for how it is, even if you never, ever, ever flip it, then you can think about putting it in your deck. But besides that, I don't know. That's where I'm starting. I will move
exactly.
up from there, because,
and some of them have pretty reasonable front sides.
Yeah.
I think the equation changes a little bit if you're hyper aggressive, because one of the interesting things about battles is like you can play it and then attack it in the exact same, like right away, immediately. So if you have a creature advantage, they get a lot better, which I kind of like about the design. It's like anything that pushes creatures and creature combat without necessarily being a creature itself is always interesting, I think. So I think that part of it plays well. I have to ask you what you feel about these flavor-wise.
Do you mean like, does it feel like a battle, or are you talking about each world or plane? Sorry.
Just the way they executed these sieges. Do you think they nailed the flavor here? I think the way I'm asking that question is like leading what I think.
No, you think they did not?
Yeah.
I think it's definitely not what I was expecting. But it does feel like there is more, like a bit more of battleness to it than, like, what are the other things they've tried to make battles of? Like army tokens, that was like a war, or I guess planeswalkers, because they're similar in the sense that, in War of the Spark made a ton of planeswalkers and you have to attack them. But they also made those fairly simple, where they did like one thing. So these feel, well, first of all, turning my head is actually much more frustrating than I thought it was going to be, especially when you're trying to bluff your opponent and you're like, let me just, my cards, you have to hold them like sideways, like it's, and no one really figured out exactly where to put it on the battlefield, whether you put it like sideways so you can both read it, or like just give it to your opponent and then they can read it, or what.
Well, if you want to know, that Arena puts it definitely on your opponent's side of the battlefield. Now, Arena has the cards are the right way for everyone.
For everybody, yeah. When you look at it.
But everyone in chat was like blowing up, like, it's so weird that it goes to the other side of the battlefield. which I thought it was weird that they thought it was weird because I
Yeah,
was
it's like
like, obviously that's where it's going to go.
that's
I'm
the
attacking it.
whole point. Also, it says on the card, whatever.
I think it's new players who maybe have played when curses were around versus players who have never
Sure.
seen anything like that is a different story. But
Yeah, that's very true. But anyway, I think it's fine. Like, I definitely was in a battle with someone trying to stop them from flipping their thing. Now, I did not know what the other side did, and I did not feel like stopping the game to read what the other side did. But I was assuming that if they were spending all their resources to attack it, that it was probably something that I shouldn't let them have.
that's a
um,
classic Magic shortcut. If my
yeah,
opponent thinks that this is the right thing for them, then I should probably try to stop
yes.
it.
So, and that did not go very well for me. Um, but so yes, it does feel like you're fighting over it, and you're trying to like, do I like let you have this thing because it's not actually killing me, but like it will kill me like next turn or whatever. Because
Yeah, I
so
guess the part I mean that like I don't totally get, and maybe you can help me through this, is these as invasions representing the invasion of a plane.
hmm,
So they're all invasions of a plane, right? But who am I in this situation? Like, okay, so I'm assuming that I am the good guys, so to speak. So invasion of Lorwyn. I am Lorwyn.
oh
I am attacking the invasion of Lorwyn. So like I'm Lorwyn, they're the invasion.
yes, I
So
think
I'm
it.
fighting them. And then when I fight them back enough, I get a defender of Lorwyn. I unlock a defender of Lorwyn. Like I don't totally get how these represent the
So
invasion of a plane.
I think it's kind of like if you. So yes, I think all of them are you are defending the plane from uh, the attackers, and if you successfully defend it, which is get it down from the defend counters, then you
Right.
won, and your
If I
victory.
remove all of the defend counters
Yes, then
from as the
you won.
defender, I remove all the defend counters from the invasion.
Yes,
Then I am rewarded with a defender of the plane,
yes.
usually.
Hmm.
But like, I don't know.
Does it make you feel more
Doesn't
like you're attacking? Is that what you're saying? It makes it feel like you're a
it
favorite
just
fan.
like I don't understand why the reward is some sort of defend. Like, wouldn't shouldn't that defender have come in earlier and helped me defend the invasion? Not after I beat back the invasion. Some big defender of the plane shows up. Also, it's like they are defend counters that I'm removing. I'm the
Yeah.
defender.
Well, what if it's like you're an outside planeswalker who has to show Lorwyn that you are saving them, and then they come help you in whatever else you want to do in other battles.
Maybe.
I will say the defend thing is kind of hard, but I don't really like. Does it make sense to have attack tokens and you defeat all the attack tokens, and then you is that I don't know. I think the
I don't
name of
know.
the counter doesn't matter that much, but I do think that the feeling of playing and fighting over something is there, which is similar to Planeswalkers, where you're like both like one's trying to keep it alive, one's trying to destroy it. Um,
For sure. It's just they went so hard on all of these being invasions. And then I'm like, I'm not sure the flavor of these as invasions is so like is such a home run slam dunk that we needed to like
yeah,
we need to go this hard on it.
I think one thing that's great about it, as far as like having them all different invasions, is that like it is easier to kind of remember them because the art looks different. As in the sense that the art is from different planes. So if you can really tell, like Kaladesh is like that's Aetherflux Reservoir. So like I know where that's from. So it's easier to remember that thing. You're talking about Invasion of Lorwyn specifically, and I remember this one because this is one of the invasions I think is better because it affects the board because it kills a creature when it enters, which that's all it has to do. Like you don't even have to attack it. You're just like it just kills something huge because I have a bunch of it kills something depending on how many lands you control, um, and that
And it's 6 mana, so you probably
Yeah, so
control
it's
quite a few
killing like
lands.
a 6 power creature. So I played against an opponent who had several of these, and it was like, oh, this is really awful. Because then they don't even give a shit about it. They're like, it's just a
Plus, this probably
removal
like
spell.
kills your biggest blocker, and then they attack it. It's like, what are you
Yeah,
gonna do?
and you're like, great, okay, now you have another type. So you swing for lethal next turn. Okay, great. So I think any of the battles or the sieges, battle sieges, whatever, what are we supposed to call them? But if they kill a creature or they make a creature, that's my bar right now for if I will pick it or not, basically. Or I guess deal damage to my opponent if it's red, because there are some red ones that just like deal damage to their face. But for the most part, the other ones I'm just glossing over because I can't handle it.
Yeah,
It's it's so much.
I guess originally for these two, I thought I was Phyrexia, and like I'm trying to take down the defense. I'm invading,
Gotcha.
and then then the other flipping didn't make sense. Like I guess I thought I would. Basically, I thought I'm Phyrexia. I take down the defenses, and then I get a Phyrexianized version of one of them. Was what I thought was going to happen, but
Gotcha.
none of them are Phyrexianized, so it's clearly not what's happening. But I think that
Yeah.
might have been cooler.
I think
Except
I
that people probably don't want to be Phyrexia.
Well, number one, I'm really happy that you did want to be Phyrexia because that's not always, I feel like, what has been the situation. It's usually me who's the Phyrexian. So
Oh, and this
that,
said, I want to be
okay.
Phyrexia, so we could
Uh,
get to
well,
that.
we will say that like the invasion of new Phyrexia is like
That one works that way, right? So
well, no, because the invasion of new Phyrexia, you get Teferi, which is like
that's what I mean. It works the way that I thought it worked, except that like that the same people that because New Phyrexia is the one you're
because
yeah,
they're invading new Phyrexia.
right. So
Oh, and then you get a guy who's
you
invading New
get a
Phyrexia.
Teferi, not a
Oh,
Phyrexian.
yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. The flavor is not a home run slam dunk for me, and they really went hard on it. So I feel like they
Okay.
felt really strongly about the flavor.
I think it took me a while to come around to it, but I get it. I think I just,
I think I get it. I think
yeah.
I get what they were going for, but
But I
that's what
think,
makes me feel like it's not super strong.
I also think just like, they've already, like, it is trying to encapsulate an event that is happening right now, as opposed to like a saga, which is an event that happened a long time ago, which is
Yeah,
it's more of a story. And this one's happening like we get to decide whether the battle actually is completed or not. And in
yeah,
my case, most of
that's
them
pretty cool.
aren't. I do think it's interesting. I wonder what it will be like in the future when they start to make more battles and like how that will work. Um,
Yeah,
with
and like I
their
said, I'm interested in the mechanics of it. I think it's a cool card. Like new,
totally,
like you said, there's a lot of
yeah,
design space. So
yes.
psyched about that.
I just think that
Um,
they threw a lot at us. A
yeah,
lot.
this,
Like it's like
yeah,
imagine they introduced sagas for the first time, and when they did sagas, they also introduced read ahead while they were doing sagas, and then sagas that transformed into other things. And then you have to
yeah.
remember which one does what. That's what it feels
Like they
like.
introduced sagas, and it's like Fable of the Mirror Breaker is
Yeah.
the was one of them, and then like another one is one of the read ahead ones or whatever.
Yeah. And then one of them is just like the regular ones that just die. And you're like,
Yeah,
wait, so is this the one that flips into something? Fuck. Do I, it's just,
and like when do these do the thing that they do? Is it main phase?
yeah. And don't even the ones from Kamigawa, like all those sagas flip into creatures, almost all of them, right?
They all do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and just saying, like, this is horribly complex for the first time we're being introduced to something. Do you know what I mean?
The
Like,
first time they introduced saga, it's a saga that flips into another saga and flips
yeah.
back.
Well, okay. Thank you for introducing us to the flipping of sagas that flip back into stuff because all of the Praetors in this set are here. And that's
Holy
also
crap,
another.
this is a complicated set.
So we
Okay.
already talked about battles, which flip both sides. Now we have Praetors. There's the 5 Praetors are still alive at this moment in the story. Spoilers for last week's episode. Uh, so, um, and they all have a certain condition at the bottom, And if you can meet it and pay its tax, then you can flip it into a saga that when you run through the chapters, it flips back into the creature and you can just flip, flop, flip, flop, flip, flop as many times as you can. Though most of the sagas like kill your opponent. So
Yeah, it's hard to flip these too many times because it's hard not to have won the game. So
Mhm.
like we can talk about, I'll quickly as I can, I'll read Shieldred because that's the
Okay.
one that's here. It's 3 black for a 4/5 Phyrexian Praetor Menace. When it ETBs, each opponent sacks a non-token creature or planeswalker. You can pay 4 and a black to exile it and return it. There's some stuff like activate only as a sorcery and only if opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard. She flips into the True Scriptures, which is, as Zach mentioned, a saga. Chapter 1. For each opponent, destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker that player controls. Yowza. Chapter 2. Each opponent discards 3 cards and then mills 3 cards. Chapter 3. Put all creature cards from all graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. Then exile the True Scriptures and return it to the battlefield. So it comes back as shield.
And makes them sacrifice a non-token creature or planeswalker.
And yes.
Like,
and they all have ATBs, so when they flip, they do their thing. Yeah, and you probably have 5 mana to just, anyways.
Just
although they may not have 8 cards in their graveyard because you just reanimated everything.
That's true. You took all their stuff, which that makes sense. So I think they purposely try to do that. But this is one of my no pass list cards.
Yeah, this card is unbelievable.
It's absolutely bonkers. Like, I think all the Praetors have their sense of like, I'm going to like win the game, but like this one is really
this one
easy.
Feels like the best one.
Well, it's
standard at least.
It's the one that's easiest to flip. The other ones have like some conditions, like sacrifice 3 creatures, have 7 cards in your hand, cast 3 instants or sorceries, and then I think Vorinclex is just like have 8 mana. But this one seems the most reasonable to be like, yeah, you're going to flip this. Like, people just get cards in their graveyard.
Like, I mean, this is a rogue's card, right?
Yeah, it is. It's like
8 or more.
There's a couple of rogues cards in here that like literally say the 8 or more thing on it. So, which is so very exciting. It is the other thing with the set is that there are mechanics and stuff happening from from like Eldraine
Hall sets
to here, like all over the place, like random abilities from other sets that were like everywhere, and like legendary creatures that are smashed with other legendary creatures that are just a new legendary creature, and sometimes they do like a combined thing, and sometimes they do something kind of different, and it's really hard to remember, and it's
not to mention there's just a crap load of double-faced cards that aren't a Praetor or a battle, that are just things getting Phyrexianized.
Yeah. And those ones are also not even that easy to remember because a lot of them, like they're commons and uncommons, but I was thinking, oh, like it's kind of a vanilla creature and then it flips into a vanilla creature. No. Sometimes they flip and they have an ETB or like something happens when they transform. They like make creatures or they like draw cards or they do different things. And it's
right. So
I mean, like
they have a bit of a pattern, right? Like they're always monocolored.
Mm-hmm.
To flip them costs a Phyrexian mana of a different color.
Yes.
And then they flip into a 2-colored Phyrexian that is the 2 colors. So like their original color plus the Phyrexian mana spent to flip them.
Exactly. Which I do like the Phyrexian mana thing, which makes them very accessible in draft because you can put them in whatever deck you want. People are playing 2 life everywhere. Like, don't give a shit. It's just part of the cost. Everything always reads like 4 plus 2 life. Like that's basically what you're thinking. So I think these are designed really well and I really like it. I think if my first experience playing with them was on Arena, I would be like, oh, amazing, perfect. I love it. Because I was playing in paper, like it's I'm just going to look at a card real quick.
Yep. Hold on.
Okay, I will cast this card, you know? Like that's like what happens the whole time. You're like, can I see this? You have to like take it out and put it back and then you can't remember. You're like, wait, let me see it again. And most everyone, I mean, like it is a pre-release, obviously, and it's our first time seeing it and nobody really knows the cards. but it's still like I play a card. I'm like, it flips into something. I can't remember what it does. So when I flip it, we'll both figure out what it does. You know?
We'll learn at the time.
Yeah, and that's basically what I told all my opponents when I played those cards. Because I'm like, it does something I can't remember. We'll figure it out together.
There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. Oh, are those all the flip cards? I think those are the flip ones. The types of flip cards.
Yeah, we basically talked about all the types of different flip cards.
So flip cards have, obviously words on both sides. The other mechanic in the set isn't a flip card, but it does put more words on another card. which I'm just laughing so hard because I think all of this is insane. I don't know. Are you also overwhelmed? Is everyone else overwhelmed? Please tell me that I'm not alone. That I think that I'm like.
I want the count. Is this more than Strixhaven? This feels like more than Strixhaven.
It's got to be, man.
Yeah.
It's like
this is the most words I've ever seen in a Magic set.
Because how many Deans did we have? 10? There was one for every color combination, right?
There was only, was it for every color pair? Just every Strixhaven color pair?
Maybe every Strixhaven color pair.
Just one for each school or whatever. Right?
Maybe just one for each school.
You have Deans of color pairs that aren't
there. Right. That makes sense. So yeah, so it was
5.
Well, it felt like 10. This set.
Well, there were 10 in the sense that there were 2 Deans per card.
That's true. Maybe that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But this set feels like there's 36 battles in the set. So that's already a bunch, plus all the other double face cards, plus the backup cards So backup is the mechanic I was alluding to earlier, which basically when it enters the battlefield, it has a backup number, which puts counters on a creature or the creature that was played. And then all of them also have whatever ability on their card, and they grant that ability to that other creature that got the +1/+1 counters until end of turn. So that's really not that complicated. It's totally fine. But I just think it's funny that the other mechanic that they made up is hey, more words. It just makes me laugh.
So it's sort of complicated, right? Because the first thing is it says only stuff under the backup ability. Yes. So anything under, it says backup, then there's a crap load of text. If there were any text above backup, which does happen, that text does not get transferred.
Oh shit! Over. I don't think I ran into any of those cards, but yes, that is exactly what it says.
Yeah. Now it's just for stupid stuff like flash goes above it because it doesn't make sense to give something on the battlefield flash, or it doesn't matter, I guess. Yeah. So it's not you have to remember what gets transferred and what doesn't. It's just kind of the stupid stuff doesn't get transferred just for corner case scenarios.
Yeah.
I think every card I've seen that has stuff above backup is like that. It's like flash or whatever. Or I think maybe there was a card with defender or something. You don't want to give
a different creature defender. Yeah. But
yeah, for the most part, it sort of works. It works fairly intuitively, but then the ability often says something like, when this creature deals damage. And so you could be confused of if I give backup to something else, which creature has to deal damage to trigger the ability? It works the way you think. It's why it says whenever this creature deals damage instead of whenever
the naming
deals damage. They specifically did it that way, otherwise backup wouldn't really work.
Yes.
So it seems super simple, and then it's oh, this could be kind of complicated, but then you realize it's all just rules technicalities to make it work the simple way that you thought it worked originally.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, and that ends up working out. And it's throwing counters all over the place. So of course there's a bunch of fun counter synergy and stuff. For the most part, a lot of the commons or a lot of the backup cards are just giving French vanilla abilities, or I guess keywords. So like flying, double strike, trample, menace, which is so that's like so refreshing. Like just there we go. Just good old magic. Like something simple.
Dude, one of my favorites is Serpent Blade Assailant. 2 and a green for a 2/1, backup 1, Death Touch.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So clean. Love it.
Yeah. Like there's a white one that just gives it flying, which is like other creatures that have like it's really clean in the way that it gives flying instead of like I mean,
Yeah.
obviously backup has a bunch of text, but on the shorter version it just says backup 1 flying, and that's the
Right.
card. And then you just know what it does. So
Like that card has like existed in white limited forever. Just like
yeah.
this is like a 2/2 that gives something flying 1 time.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah, there you go.
And this even gives it a counter. So
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, those are the things besides the incubate tokens, but those are self-explanatory, I think. Fairly simple.
sure.
Of the other mechanics, I think incubate's probably the easiest one to be like, all right, yeah, so it just does this. Easy. Oh man,
It's
Jeff.
like you know, a clue token meets morph.
Yeah,
There's your incubate.
basically, yeah. Man, Jeff, I think that even just like talking about how complex this set is, I'm like getting that headache again of just like, oh my gosh. I think this set's gonna be rough for me. I can feel it already. Because just like the it has the complexity piece of just like adding a bunch of stuff to cards where like it's really easy to forget things like all of the legends that are stapled together is really hard. It's really easy to just like miss stuff, which like specifically Inga and Asika is like a 4 mana 4/4. It's a 2 green blue for a 4/4 human god. So it's Asika of the World Tree and Inga, who is a card that I just some blue card that drew cards or something from Call Time. I can't remember. But anyway, it just
It
says
was the seer, the head seer.
right, something like that. But it just says creatures you control have vigilance, and they all tap for any color, but you can only spend that on creature spells. And then whenever you cast a creature spell with 3 or more mana from creatures, from mana that was spent with creatures, you can draw a card. But the reason this card feels confusing is that like there's also Convoke in the set, so you're using creatures to pay for spells in other ways, and remembering which if you're paying for creatures or not to draw the cards can be confusing. And then through all of that stuff, when you're just worried about tapping creatures, you forget that all your creatures have vigilance and they should just be attacking. And so it's like
Classic.
So it ends up that card is really good, and being able to attack with all your creatures and then also play a bunch of creatures after and then draw cards tends to be great. But it's just the continued like they tap for any color, but only for creature spells. And only if 3 of them tap for creature spells, then you get to draw a card. It just because it couldn't overlap with Convoke or whatever. But yeah. I oh man, I'm just excited to play with the cards. So like, maybe I'll figure out which cards I can forget some of the stuff of, and we'll figure out which ones will be important and play it a lot. But
that's the goal.
That's the goal. That's magic, man. I'm sorry.
They've really outdone themselves this time, to be honest. This is like they were like, you know what? If we can ever get away with an absolutely unreasonable level of complexity for a Magic set, it's in the like end of the Phyrexian story arc, right? Like,
yes,
where we have a war on all planes, like. We can do whatever mechanic we want. We can do whatever characters we want. We can put characters together.
They usually make this set super complex for like in the rotation. I feel like like a Korea, crazy complex
Uh,
set with like
this
confusing
is
things.
Strixhaven, right? This is like the
Yeah, it's like the New Capena, not so much, but like this is. I don't know why they do
yeah.
this. If there was ever a set, like Call Time should have been more than one set. You know, there's a lot of sets that should have been more than one set. This one, March of the Machine, is basically like I thought all would be one is like part of this block. This could have been you could have introduced battles and then we could have saw how battles got for like a whole year. You know, like this
Yeah.
is so much. And don't forget, we have 50 new cards coming out in like 2 weeks or whatever, 3 weeks.
I am curious how the reverse saga thing goes. Like
Mm-hmm.
how the complicated battles come, and then we just play with a normal battle that's essentially an enchantment that my opponent can kill.
Yeah.
And
Is that like super boring? Like it sounds kind of boring.
or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's refreshing. Maybe it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this isn't gonna flip into something that's gonna whoop my ass. All right.
Or like it does flip, but like for them. Like, so how good does the thing up front have to be?
You're right. It's like an enchantment, but but with the downside that my because enchantments are too powerful. So with the downside that if my opponent attacks it, it gives them an attacker.
Yeah. uh, or yeah, I don't know. We'll have to find out, but I am excited to see it just kind of maybe relax a little bit. Like we could have, I don't know, did we need 36? You know? Uh, I know that like they're invading all the different planes, but it's ultimately I think they're gonna kind of get washed away and it's gonna be like, oh yeah, remember that limited set where they had all the things? Yeah. I mean, we are gonna have this for I guess I was thinking it was gonna be all summer, but that's not true because the Lord of the Rings set is gonna come break that up. But um yeah.
Maybe that's why this set is more complicated, right? Because they know it has to last you longer before you get bored, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, you just mean in general that that
Right.
spring
Like
set?
the spring set is always more complicated because they know like they may or may not do something in the summer.
So it needs to be like really deep.
Yeah.
But is putting
Needs to
extra
take you like literally 6 months to read all the cards.
I think that's what's going to happen, and I'm still not going to have read some of the cards. I
Yeah,
feel like I read almost all of them throughout the last couple days. There's something in there that I missed. I
oh,
was
for sure.
literally playing. I was playing. All will be one draft before it leaves, and there was a blue card I feel like I've never seen before.
Yeah. That always happens to me, man. It's like the last draft I do of the format, I've been drafting it a ton. And then I'm playing some game, maybe I'm, you know, 3-1 or for 4-2 or something like that. I play against some card like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah,
I've never seen that
what
card.
the hell is that card? It's not even the one that like, oh, you're playing that card or whatever it's around. Like, it's just like a blue uncommon. I'd never seen it in a draft pack, and I just saw it, and then I never saw it again. I was like, I don't think that's the only time it looked good, and I was like, I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever seen this blue card.
That happened to me where I was playing Boros equipment, as I've
Hmm.
been known to do in
That's
all
so
of B1
weird.
draft. I know, right? And I was like, well, pretty much can't lose this game. I have my like big ass creature. I have my Hex Gold Hoverwings.
Yeah, yeah.
Nothing can happen to me. And my opponent plays this red spell that kills both. It kills my creature and destroys my equipment. And it like
Oh,
specifically says destroy an equipment and it deals like 5 damage or something. I'm like,
oh,
what the hell is this thing? I've never played against this card in my life.
that's the it deals 5 damage, right?
Yeah, it
The
deals 5 damage and then like
mhm.
randomly also blows up an
Blows up
equipment. And I
equipment.
was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, I guess I lose now.
Well,
Like,
that's like the active treason in the set also blows up equipment randomly. Like,
didn't
but
know
like
that.
it's one of those things that like, why are you hosing equipment in the red deck? Like, you should be able to
Yeah,
do that in like a different color so that red isn't so strong. But
yeah. And I vaguely remember like very early in the format being like, well, that card blows because there's so much good red removal that I
mhm.
always just ignore that card. And this is like the first time I've ever really gotten got by it to the point where I forgot it was a thing. And
Yeah.
then when it happened, I was like, what does this thing do? Oh, that's
I
bullshit.
yeah, I've only seen it in like constructed, so the equipment part never mattered. So I only read the
Right.
beginning of it where it's a dealt 5 damage. So that's why I was like, is it the one that I think it is?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I think this is the most off the rails pregame we've ever had. But
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
but it's
But we
crazy.
did cover the basics of the
We
set.
did we did
Super
cover the basics.
complicated, ton
Yeah.
of flip cards, backup.
Yeah. Um, Jeff, I think I need a break before we go into some cards. So let's go on a beer break,
Yeah,
grab another beer, and then talk about some cards we think are cool that maybe have a little less words. And
let's do it.
that's a fucking lie. We're gonna talk about lots of cards with lots of words. All right. This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over on Patreon.
That's right. You're already supporting the show just by listening. But if you want to support the show even more, Patreon is the best way to do that. Plus, you get to vote on your favorite co host by either buying me a beer,
Or buying me a beer. So go to patreon.com/arena regulars to vote on your favorite host.
or if you'd rather send us beer emojis than IRL beers, you can do that too. We love it. Please do so on our Discord channel. The link is in the show notes.
It is. Do it, please. All right, Jeff, I got a beer for you. And it is also a stout. So this is a
Oh,
stout with coffee is the name of the beer. It's from Bellwoods Brewing Company. It's featuring Sam James coffee bar beans. And it is 5%. So just thinking we should have a stout off. See who brought the best stout. Or I guess who makes the best stout. Or whatever. Whatever one we liked the most tonight. It doesn't matter. Beer's good. So let's crack it open and get talking about some stuff.
I just wish they were more descriptive with the title. I just have no idea what to expect.
I love titles like this where it's just very plain. You know, just this is what you're supposed to get. I mean, I need to taste it to make sure that it actually like delivers what it says it does. But I think
Is that thing?
it's fairly easy and simple. It's not too crazy. Um, and the last one was like that as well. Just it's dark. Just
The
expect that.
darkness. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it either way. I like if you're gonna have the more interesting name though, it's hit or miss, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like nobody's gonna dislike this
Just
stout with coffee.
stout
That's
with
the
coffee.
name.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So, Jeff, we talked about a lot of mechanics and things, and we had some like cards that explained those mechanics, but I think we should actually dive into cards that we think are cool or interesting. Maybe cards that are on our no pass list, maybe not. Who knows? But
For
yeah.
sure. And one thing I wanted to call out is something we talked about offline in the
Hmm.
beer break, but I think is worth actually mentioning is like we're ragging on the set a little, just saying it's super complicated, has so many words.
Yes.
But I think that is important because uh, like some of us players that have been playing for so long, it's easier on us for a bunch of cards that have a bunch of words because we have all of these things built in our brain of like if you see this you can stop reading, the card's bad. Like
Yeah.
don't worry about it. Or this is the bad red removal spell of this set. We know exactly what that's for. It's if you're lacking removal, it's later on, you pick it up. um, you don't even really have to read the card to know that. You could, if you just see like a sorcery speed 5 mana red and it's clear it's a removal spell, you already know where this fits into like the limited architecture. Anyone who has not been playing for as long as we have doesn't necessarily have those shortcuts. And so they really do have to read everything that's going on here. And so I think it's important for us to call out like, hey, this is not just a normal set, guys. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the amount of words that are going on here, so is everyone. This
Yeah.
is a huge set. So um, that's just what I wanted to call out. Like, for those that are sitting there thinking like, oh, they're just ragging on this set, it's like, well, a little. We're trying to have fun with it, but we're also trying to let people know like, hey, we're all
It's
overwhelmed, so
yeah.
don't feel bad if that's you.
It is a lot. And like Jeff also said during the break that, you know, this is our last standard set before September. besides Aftermath. And so maybe they want to make it as confusing as possible, so we stay engaged for months and months. So maybe it's on purpose. I mean, obviously it has to be on purpose. There's no way they accidentally made it a crazy complicated, but
Yeah.
jamming a bunch of stuff in there and having a bunch of random little things tacked on. But oh, I think we should start talking about some cards. Do you have anything right off the bat you're interested in talking about, Jeff? Or
Yes, but it, it,
okay,
it also is a slight criticism.
okay,
I don't know about criticism, but maybe just curiosity.
yeah,
Um,
throw it on.
okay, so I feel like I have to talk about this card. I love this card. Despite this being the first time it's ever been printed, I have always loved this card.
Okay,
And so this is Corrupted Conviction. This is a instant for 1 black mana. As an additional cost to cast it, you sacrifice a creature, and you draw 2 cards.
mm-hmm.
What's up with this, man? So we're already in one of the most complicated sets of all time. And now we're getting functional reprints, literal identical cards to cards that already exist. Why? This would be the time to just reprint something. And I know what you're saying, Village Rights may not make sense flavor-wise in this set. First of all, what? Village Rights is kind of the kind of thing that could go anywhere. But also, they've done this more than once. There are several cards that do this in this set. And one of them's like, what is it? Reckless Impulse is the card that they functionally reprinted. It's like Reckless Impulse, that could go anywhere. That's flavor agnostic for sure. Village Rights, I would argue, is as well, but a little less. All right, come on, Reckless Impulse. And I think the art they chose and everything like could literally just be called Reckless Impulse. So
yeah,
come on, like you're already so complicated. And are these cards that we need 8 of for any real reason anywhere? Like,
so
this confused me to see so many, because I literally had to go and check Village Rights, be like, isn't this Village? Like, I swear this is Village Rights. I had to do that with Reckless Impulse. Like, isn't this literally the same card?
Yeah. Yes. Pauper players rejoice everywhere. You have 8 copies of your favorite card for your deck. But
is that it? It's for Pauper, I guess.
I think it's. I don't even think they do this specifically for Pauper and Commander, because in Commander you get an extra copy of the card that you like. But like, I don't know, man. It baffles me. Like, even the art for Corrected Conviction, like it is basically like Village Rights. It's like someone in your village and you're sacrificing them. Like, right?
Right.
Like maybe it's just not like talking about Phyrexia as a village is a strange thing to do, but like who cares? Like I or just don't print the fucking card in the set and just do something else. Like I don't know.
And they're all like story spotlight. It's like we got lazy, we just decided to reprint cards, but then also got lazy on the story side of things, made them story spotlights, and then justified changing the name. I don't know. Like, I'm happy to have this card because I like Village Rights, and I think Village Rights has been missing. I think Village Rights is like they've hit that sweet spot of this card should kind of always be around because it's not too powerful, but it actually gives that strategy a reason, a raison d'etre. Like, this is why you play this. So I'm happy to have Corrupted Conviction. But like from an arena player perspective, it's like I have the version of Village Rights that I like. I have like the Strixhaven one is my personal favorite, the like funky border one, because I think it's like the cool card in my deck. So I like to play that one. Now I have to play this. Like, I don't think the art is bad, but I have my version of this card that I like, and I play this deck, and like now I have to play this.
Just wait, they're gonna have skins of Corrupted Conviction that are all the different Village Rights.
I would like that, honestly. I'd be like, please, I will give you not a lot. I'll give you 500 gold for that for sure.
Yeah, I agree. This is I mean, it isn't a new card, which is funny. I mean, like technically it is, but like doesn't really feel like it. And it's one of the ones I was happy honestly to see, because I was like, oh yeah, this is just village rights, and then I moved on, not really sitting down and thinking about like, well, why are they doing this though? Like, this is frustrating.
Right.
Um,
And I went through the process too. I was like, oh, Village Rights is back. And then
mhm.
why isn't it Village Rights?
Yeah. Yeah, because people talk about power creep being an issue, which is true. Like, you don't want things to slowly build up. Same with complexity and stuff. You want things to just kind of be churning and be fresh and new, but like not always getting faster and stronger and better. Um, which is a way to sell packs and blah blah all that kind of stuff. But this is
Yeah.
another weird way of like, it was the same thing with that fucking treasure card, whatever the hell that's, big score. Where
Oh,
like,
yeah. But that was like an upgrade to
yeah,
a card that was already too good.
horribly
That was
egregious.
annoying. Yeah.
And now
This
like
is like a literal, just a reprint of a card that's not that good.
but to be fair, like, this is a card that has over the years slowly become village rights. Like, before that, it cost 2 mana, or it was a sorcery,
Right.
or like all those things. Slowly we got here, and so now they're just reprinting with different. Like, at least it's not Phyrexian mana. Then you can never play
I would
village
love
rights
that.
again.
Oh man, that'd be a great card.
Yeah, but
I would welcome that with open arms. I would
yeah.
tear up my copies of Village Rights.
Well, I do want to say, Jeff, if we're on the train of like talking about cards that we're not happy about, I'm also fine with, if this is just a let's shit on the set instead of like pre-gaming getting excited for it, we're actually getting really upset about it. I think I'm okay with that this episode, because there is one card that I'm like, what the fuck, man? Why do you have to yuck my
Wait,
yums?
can I guess? Can I guess?
What the hell is this? Like, why
is it called Glistening Deluge?
Yeah, it is. What the hell is this card? What the fuck?
I was going to specifically ask you how you felt about this card. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up.
So anyway, if you don't know what this card is, there's
'Cause
actually
I love it.
I know. Shut the fuck up. I know you do. Normally I would too. Like, on a regular day or a regular year, whatever I would. There is a really great cycle of uncommon color hate cards. Some of my favorite cards, and I love color hate cards.
Yeah. Now you have to admit, we've been asking for more color hate cards specifically.
Yes. Not this one, though. I don't want this one. So, Glistening Deluge is 1 black for a sorcery. It says all creatures get -1/-1 until end turn. Okay. Already hoses one of my favorite decks. However, it also says creatures that are green and or white get an additional -2/-2. So they get -3/-3. If you're playing Toxic, there is only one creature in your deck that can survive this. No, okay, it's 2. There are 2 creatures in your deck that can survive this, but it's like they're both the 3-drops, and it basically wipes your whole board. And it's like it's the new sideboard card that like doesn't target stuff. So and like indestructible doesn't matter, hexproof doesn't matter. Like, you just lose. So now I have to play around this card forever. It's just like, it's set after. Like, I'm already playing a deck that only, like, it's only good because like it only can play cards from one set, and then the set after you have to put the hoser in it. Like, I get it. I get that you do that. Like, they like to put like hosers for past strategies in the next set, but like, this one just feels a 3-mana board wipe.
Yeah. I wonder, because they have to, like, this is to the printer a long time ago kind of thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is locked and loaded quite a while ago. So they wouldn't have even gotten to wait and see if the green-white where the green-white Toxic deck landed.
Yeah.
I wonder how good they thought it was going to be, because for me, it landed in a great spot of like, it floats in and out of tier 1. People win tournaments with it, and then like that puts it on the radar, and then it starts to lose for a while.
Yeah.
And then people get greedy, and it comes back in and reminds them, hey, I'm still here. So I really liked that deck. This feels like you're giving the deck that you it's so hard, because normally I would use the word toxic, for a deck that's like dominating or whatever. But that's confusing here because the toxic deck is the non-toxic deck and the black decks are the toxic decks.
Yes.
But you're giving the bad guy the fuel to. It's like you're giving the bad guy the kryptonite. Like, why?
Yeah.
Like the green white deck was kind of the hero of this situation. It lets you not play black. And if the black deck wants to beat it, the black deck can already beat it.
Yes.
But
With the other
this
cards,
deck comes in and reminds, whenever those black decks are all fighting against each other, this deck comes in and reminds them, hey, I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
Now they don't have to worry about it. You just pop a couple of these in your sideboard and
Bing,
like,
bang, boom.
whether green white's a thing or not, if it surprises you, you just have these.
Yeah.
Like,
and if you're thinking, well, hey, every color got its own hate card, white and green are going to be okay. No, oh no. Green has some stupid creature that doesn't really fucking matter, and the white one is an amazing card, but doesn't matter in this situation because it's called Surge of Salvation. It's 1 white mana. It's an instant. Already love this card. It says you and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. Oh my god. I love it. I love it. It says prevent all damage that black and or red sources would deal to creatures you control. Wait. Sorry. Wait. Prevent all damage. Oh, fuck. That doesn't matter at all. Okay. This card's so useless in this situation. So it is still, I like that card a lot. It's still really good, but like against this specific hoser that's like, oh, hey, dominant black decks, here's a card that's like, just destroys your toxic deck. It's over. The toxic 3 months.
I mean, it's good against Brotherhood's End, I suppose.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, sick. That's the card I was worried about all the time. I was like, oh, yeah. This is perfect.
And they just printed something way better for the red black decks.
It's like the same mana cost. It's not even 4 mana, so people will be like, oh, well, maybe I'll just play Brotherhood's End instead. Like, no. They're just like, this is like drag from the bottom or whatever.
So it's just going to be a classic, like we main deck Brotherhood's End, and then we side in these black ones against green white.
Exactly. So great.
So
Thanks
you get
a lot.
hit by both because you're not going to main deck back white cards. So.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yep.
Fucking. What am I playing?
Yeah, I'm a little like
I'm up in the air.
This reminds me that this is a reminder that they designed so far in advance because they must have thought green white was going to be a big problem, and black would need resources to deal with it. Like, how long ago were you designing this? Because black has been the best thing in standard by so much for so long that you need resources to fight black.
Yes, and the thing is that they don't like they do this strange thing where like they think something is so behind like white, right? Like, oh no, white is so behind, we need to give it a bunch of stuff. So then they like start reprinting a bunch of good white cards, and they like just pump it with a bunch of stuff and make a Wandering Emperor and all this stuff. And like, oh, awesome. Okay, so now we're in a good spot. And then they're like, oh, well, now it feels like this deck isn't very good. So then they pump that with a bunch of stuff. And then like they don't turn the hose off. Like they hear about it, but like the hose takes like a year and a half to turn off. So like,
yeah,
it's just like, oh, good. Okay. So,
all right. Anyways, you joked though we'd be on the hate train from now on, but that was really the last big criticism I had was. So I want to throw out a real card that I am excited about, and this is related to my first card, which I am excited about. I just don't understand why it's not Village Rites. So in that same vein, let's talk about Bloated Processor.
Okay.
So this is Tuna Black for a Phyrexian creature. It's 3/2. Sacrifice another Phyrexian. Put a +1/+1 counter on Bloated Processor. When it dies, incubate X, where X is its power. Are you kidding me? You can act. This is a sacrifice ability that you can activate as many times as you want in a single turn with no activation cost.
Mm-hmm.
There is a catch. You have to play Phyrexian Tribal. But holy crap, they don't let us do this anymore. They don't let us do this.
Yeah.
Us being sacrifice players. They don't let us sack stuff for free. This is amazing. This, I think, it's gotta be worth it to build a Phyrexian deck with this, especially because the white black card, the like from a few, I don't know how many sets ago that fucking card was from, Dominaria maybe, but it's like the blood artisty kind of thing. It's a Phyrexian. So
Oh.
yeah, I see what they're doing here. I am here for it. Bloated processor, the incubate tokens. Yes, yes, I will be building a classic old school aristocrats, but Phyrexian twist, because this card is that good. This is like Nantuko Husk, basically. This is like the Nantuko Husk with the small caveat that it can't sacrifice itself.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I hate this card. I hate it. But that's because I played against it in the pre-release, and that person also. So this is the person with that had Skithrix. The other half of their deck was Bloated Processor and also a Grafted Butcher, which is like the Anthem dude who also, when it enters the battlefield,
this person sounds like they had the dream deck, man.
It was so horrible. It was just disgusting.
That's like what I want to play in standard. Well, not the Skithrix, but
yeah, but like I won't talk too much about the Grafted Butcher because I do think the Bloated Processor is probably the card that you're really stoked for. Grafted Butcher is like it's the Lord for it. It's the 2-mana Lord, and when it enters the battlefield, Phyrexians gain Menace, and then it also can be recurred from the graveyard. So,
I mean, well, it also, yeah, Lord. When you say Lord, you're implicitly saying it gives everyone +1/+1.
Yeah, for Phyrexians, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good Lord. Like, it's just a Lord. A Lord's already a good 2-drop, and then it also gives them all Menace on ETB in case you draw it late. Like, that's pretty sick.
Yeah, and it can come back from the graveyard by sacrificing an artifact or a creature, which means that everything gets Menace again. So then you're just like, if they kill the butcher or they try to kill the butcher, you just sack it with the processor, it gets big, and then like they bring it back, and then it gives the processor Menace, and then you can't block it really easily. And
I mean, I was thinking of sacking it to sorry, I forgot the name of the card. Corrupted Conviction, and then bringing it back. But
yeah. So anyway, yeah, I'm looking at stuff like black is one of like slowly becoming kind of the color that's like, oh man. This card's
black white Phyrexian aristocrats, baby.
I mean, I do like black white decks, so
that
does sound kind of interesting to me. And I am shopping for a new standard deck since I'm the kind of guy where like if they print one card that hoses your deck, which most people are going to play, I just don't want to play it anymore. I just don't like it. I'm just like upset. So I got to find something else. So I'm in the market for a new standard deck, and this, I'm flirting with it. I have a different idea, but like this could be interesting. But yeah, not super sold on it yet. You'll have to build it, and I mean, like I'm sure it's going to be great, but like you'll have to kind of show it to me.
I'm psyched for this. I like the design of Bloated Processor. Obviously, like cards that can sack creatures for free are too good. They've tried a bunch of different ways to mitigate that. The obvious one is just don't let people do it.
Yeah.
Like you have to tap it or pay mana. Both of those, one is a really harsh limitation. The other one is like a significant limitation.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting one that I don't think they've tried before. That's like, you can do it, but you have to build your whole deck around. And when I saw it, I was like, that's really cool. And I'm kind of surprised that they haven't tried this before. But I'm here for it. And they've clearly built this up over a few sets, because you look back and there are some Phyrexians that synergize with this.
Sleeper agents just pop it up.
That's right. So I really like the design and how they executed this, like releasing this in this set, as opposed to like putting it front loading it and then letting you get Phyrexians slowly trickle in. I think this was cooler because it's like,
so much cooler. Like they like we got a bunch of lords in like Dominaria United, and like one of them was really relevant, and the other ones were just like, what the fuck is this, you know? And it just feels
Right.
like a fucking slap in the face. You're like, this card's stupid, and then slowly it gets better, and you're like, okay, maybe it was good, but like, which I have something to say in a second that I just remembered, but um like it's so much more exciting when you're like, wait, all these cards that haven't really been fitting together finally have the piece that finally puts it together, and it's like it works out, and they're like just some really good solid cards that make it a tribal deck that before it wasn't tribal, and you're like, oh cool, now there's all these cards I hadn't thought about. That's super exciting. Like, so good job. I think that was a good execution on when they doled out the cards.
Yeah.
What I did want to say is that what a fucking slap in the face is Wizards doing right now with their tribal for Azorius, where they're just like, hey, soldiers, meet knights. You guys don't fucking mix at all. What the hell is that? Like, soldiers and knights already have like this weird animosity between like, are you a soldier or a knight? Like, what's the difference? And then they're like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, only like 2 sets later, like they're like, we're starting a new one because Throne of Eldraine's coming around and they care about knights. So soldiers, you had your day for a little bit. Fuck you. We're going with this now. Like, that's a rough one. That's like that's you know, there's gonna be a lot more too. So just the
I
beginning.
thought that you might find that interesting
Yeah.
because I was definitely like, oh, a lot of knights in blue white.
Yeah. And there's a
I
lord
will
and
say,
everything.
Elspeth makes soldiers,
Hmm.
as she always does.
That's true.
Uh, and there's Dusk Legion Duelist, huh? Soldier, pretty
Yeah,
good
it's
one.
true. I kind of like fell away from the soldier thing after like being excited about it. I'm trying to be more realistic, maybe with the cards that are ones I want to play. Um, but I will say, I think the design choice behind some of the Phyrexianized cards is cool. Um, so let's take an easy one. Let's do a real easy one. Low ball here. Um, and the possibility of making green good at any point.
Oh,
Um, so Pelucranos Reborn
gotta be.
is
Yeah.
green, green, green for a 4/5 legendary creature Hydra with reach, and it has a transform cost of 6 and a Phyrexian white. You can only do that as a sorcery, but it turns into Pelucranos Engine of Ruin, which is a 6/6 Phyrexian Hydra with reach and lifelink. And then it does the whole worm coil engine thing, where like when it dies, you make 2 tokens, uh, and then they're 3/3s of like it splits in half, and then one has reach, one has lifelink. Um, but it also says whenever Pelucranos or another non-token Hydra you control dies. So maybe there's some Hydras that are interested in dying and turning into some worms as well. Not worms, but like, you know. But I like that, like, hey, let's go to this other plane and steal one of their major characters and turn it into one of our favorite characters. Which I think
Yeah.
that for me is really engaging and exciting. There's a lot of words on that, but as an enfranchised player, I already know most of the words. So it feels like that feels like a very simple, easy card. And I'm like, I love you. Thank you, Pelucranos.
Right.
You're also a 3 mana 4/5
With reach.
with reach. So that alone feels strong. And some of the 3 drops we need to be big beaters to go
Yeah. Now,
green.
I had said that I had run out of criticisms. What you just said reminded me that that's not true.
Okay.
Because you were just explaining that it's really cool, this whole idea of like huge characters from Magic's past getting Phyrexianized or getting completed. And I agree. I love that. I gotta say though, where the fuck is Coma?
That's true. Because Coma, you know, so I know Atali, Primal Conqueror, is Atali is a card that people like. Atali is a commander card, the original Atali. is a commander card they reprinted a bunch of times in commander decks because it cares about other people's libraries. It's really fun. It's a fun card. You play it, you attack, you just do random shit. Awesome. I don't think Atali is as important or colossal as Coma is. And so having a creature turn into the one-shot kill, what the heck is that card called? Blightsteel Colossus?
Blightsteel, yeah.
Yeah. So having a card turn into a Blightsteel Colossus would kind of make more sense if it was Coma, where it could just one-shot you, as opposed to Atali, which seems less like that, in my opinion. I mean, it is
a cool, forced.
It's a big dinosaur, but I don't know. I guess no. I was gonna say because Coma's dead, but like so many people have died. We don't know. All these characters dead. Maybe they just needed a red card and there were too many blue ones.
And then it has like weirdo, like toxic trample thing. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it like, yeah.
It's, yeah. So I think it probably boils down to Coma is a 2-color card and none of the 2-color cards do that. They don't flip. We don't have
sure.
All of our 2-color cards are like joiner cards. So those are the weird rules that they make up for stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like Coma could have been there. Could have been just a blue card, whatever.
I'm actually perfectly fine with not having Coma because I don't care for that card at all. I like fuck that card.
Yeah, but it was just a big part of the story. I mean, like it's like a call out.
But how big part? Like
they explicitly call out that Coma was Phyrexianized. They don't mention Itali. They don't even mention Pelucranos.
They don't even mention Ixalan.
That's right. So you tell me, where's Tyvar been? Where's Tyvar been?
Yeah, but how long have they they don't really care about the story all the time. And there's a bunch of times where the story doesn't even link up with the cards, like Ikoria and stuff. So yes, it is one of the major things, but we don't have like Tamio's scroll like we thought. Remember when we thought that there's going to be the Tamio's undying story? That's not here. Maybe it's in the aftermath thing. Maybe there's something relating to the end there, but that seems like a slam dunk. But that also sounds like a saga, and they don't have regular sagas in the set, so I don't know.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
Coma should have been there.
I disagree, but whatever. Go ahead. And that I don't think I don't want. I'm done talking about this. Let's go.
That's enough. All right, another card that.
Oh my God.
Another card that. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the legendary pairs.
Yes.
This one's interesting to me, not just because it's Rakdos, but I think it's legitimately kind of a wild card. So this is Rankle and Torbrand.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1 black, red. Quite the mana cost.
Yes.
For Fairy Dwarf. One of the things I love about these pairs is you'll see creature types you've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
It has flying, first strike, and haste, and it's a 3/4. I'm already kind of interested. I'm not gonna lie. 5 mana, flying, first strike, haste, 3/4. When it deals combat damage to a player or battle, choose any number. First, each player creates a treasure token. Second, each player sacrifices a creature. Or third, and here's the WTF when you remember that this thing has first strike.
Yeah.
If a source would deal damage to a player or battle this turn, it deals that much damage +2 instead. Whoa.
That is... Yeah.
Isn't this kind of like turbocharged Torbrand?
And Rankle. I mean, Rankle helps Torbrand become turbocharged.
Right, that's what I mean. And so people are saying, treasure token, it's not that good to create a treasure token each way. it's pretty fucking good if you know that your burn spells in hand are going to deal 2 extra damage and you need mana to cast them.
It's true, but
Like you play this for 5, you attack, you get the mana to shock them for 4 kind of
you
thing. Like,
yeah, play with fire their face for 4. Yeah.
right. Like you don't choose it if you can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a wild card.
Yeah.
This is like a black red. If there's a black red aggro deck, and like not the kind of black red decks we've been seeing, like aggro.
Yeah.
You're playing burn spells, you're playing aggressive creatures, you're probably still playing Blood Tithe Harvester, that kind of thing. This is the reason why that deck is good, because this is a fucking card, man.
This is like there are already. I've been playing some best of one, just like mono red, just to rank up at the very end of the season, and like all the creatures have haste and all that kind of stuff. And so this one would be great in that type of deck. You just have to change the mana base so you can't play the creature land, which is totally fine because it's not really that good anyway. But being able to like swing in the air, which a lot of times people don't have blockers, and you're just playing a ton of creatures. You're attacking with a bunch of little 1/1s already,
and they
like,
don't know they have to block it because it has haste, right? So like, you just have a bunch of idiots on the ground.
They counted the damage
how
out.
Many
it's 3
cards
damage
you need to kill them? Like you only need a couple extra attackers to their blockers, and then this is just gets lethal fast.
Yeah, because like even if you don't have the burn spell in hand, you're going to hit them for 3 for sure, for in this scenario. And then what, like 2 extra 1/1s is just 6 damage, so that's 9 altogether. Like that's
and I feel like there's a weird situation that happens, and maybe I'm not thinking about this right, but I think something that's possible here is we attack with this and a bunch of crap. This hits, and we choose options 2 and 3. And we sacrifice this, and they've just lost a blocker for our crap load of other tokens because this already did its damage, so we don't mind sacrificing this. And then all of our shit does 2 extra damage, right? Like that's a way to remove one of their blockers.
Only if our creature has trample will that matter, but because they'll block at the same time.
Oh, they'll assign blockers first.
Yeah. But if you do happen to have trample on something, that is super helpful.
Well, like pretty much everything would have to have trample.
Yeah. So that
otherwise
they would never the one that's being blocked by that. But I do like the attack with everything, make them sacrifice creatures, only sacrifice your creatures that was blocked, and then they have to sacrifice something else, right? Whatever.
Essentially is what you're doing. Yeah. You sack a blocked creature. Yeah. They probably also sack a creature that was they're trying to like guess which blocked creature you're gonna sack. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. Because the way that this card works is that it starts from the top and resolves down. So you'll get the treasure token, then sack it, and then deal the damage. So it does matter, which is really interesting. So I like that the way that they added that is so crazy. Or maybe that's just I don't know, a random token that was made that didn't get to attack or something, or the creature you played that turn, who knows. But yeah,
and this is also a fun way that like both cards are in here, right? Like this really is Torbrand and Rankle. I mean, Rankle's like 90% of the card, but then the Torbrand ability comes in right at the bottom.
Is the bottom.
And I guess the 4 toughness.
Yes.
From Torbrand.
So, and the double red. The weakness of the card is the mana cost, of course. So that's why it feels like a little bit of a reach, I think. But it does look super cool. And the day that you die to this, you're like, son of a bitch. All right. Well,
Well, didn't play around all of my opponent's creatures dealing an extra 2 damage.
Yeah. My bad. Sorry. How was that?
Plus, 3 damage in the air.
Yeah. That came out of nowhere. So Yeah, I just want like, what do you think of these team up things, like these like stapling two creatures together, kind of.
I like the
Thing.
idea in principle, and I
Hmm.
think for the most part they were executed well. Some of them are kind of like wah wah, like,
Yeah, some of them are
but
kind of weird, but
yeah,
I do agree that for the most part, having two creatures that are from the same plane work together, no matter what sides they're normally on, to fight something is pretty cool, and I like what they've done with it. Um, I kind of, in general, like for commander stuff, I never really liked the partner mechanic, which is like put two creatures together and it's your commander thing. That was never really that fun to me, just because I liked having one card. I think that was probably what it was. But having these ones seems interesting, like Zimone and Dina. Even just having like this card seems like sweet to me. Like it's Sultai for a 3/4 human dryad. Dryad? Yeah, that's right. I was about to say druid, and then I like. Ugh. Anyway, she is a dryad. And whenever you draw your second card each turn, target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. And then you can tap it and sacrifice another creature to draw a card. And then you can put a land card from your hand on the battlefield tapped. And if you control 8 or more lands, repeat that process. Just the way that they kind of were able to mesh those two cards together and to be like having the theme of you want to draw your second card each turn to kill your opponent. And when you do that, you also like you can do it on the card and be able to play lands. um, just seemed nice. And it just
yeah,
was like
really
two
clean design.
kind of innocuous, uncommon creatures, students even get to come together and like work together to do this thing.
Yeah,
Though
this one's really nice.
I want to know why Zimone and Dina are one card, but then Quintorius gets his own card. What the hell? But whatever. People must love Quintorius, I guess.
Yeah, I think that is true. Um, I think Quintorius is like, yeah, going to be the next planeswalker from Strixhaven. It's kind of what this is
Yeah,
alluding to.
I think it happened in the story. I think there's a side story, and I think he might have his spark might have ignited or something.
Oh, okay.
So I was
Well,
expecting a planeswalker card, and instead it's just, but whatever.
oh well, maybe they felt like they had enough. But yeah, to me, this just meant like, oh, we're taking this random kid from Strixhaven, making a huge legendary card out of him in the most important set. Obviously, he's like
Yeah.
a character they care about, which generally means Planeswalker. But
Yes.
yeah, okay. Um, all right. Here's a card that I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about tonight, but I've decided I am.
Okay.
So we're going to talk Ren. Ren and Realmbreaker.
All right. Okay.
This is 1 green for a legendary planeswalker. Ren. Lands you control have tapped, add 1 mana of any color. +1. Up to one target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with vigilance, hexproof, and haste until your next turn. Still land. -2, mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among the milled cards into your hand. -7, you get an emblem with you may play lands and cast permanent spells from your graveyard. 4 loyalty. I love this card. I think it's the type of card that I really like, but I'm having trouble placing
How good it is.
how good other people will think it is.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's super important that the land gets hexproof. I'd love to see that because they've kind of made that mistake in the past where you animate a land, they like Doomblade it, and you're like, oh, wow, I really wish I'd never done that. Or go for the throat or whatever the stupid instant speed kill spell of choices. And then once that happens, because that card exists, I would now have to cast my planeswalker, like not activate it because I'm too afraid if they held mana up. So hexproof was a good progression on that. But this card seems super good to me. Like this is a lot out of a 3 mana planeswalker. Especially with battles around. I think that land to just go attack the battle is going to be pretty handy.
Hmm.
Obviously, the ultimate's like pretty far away, -7 when you start at 4. It's an insane ultimate, but mostly you're looking at the +1, -2, and the static is fine. Like, I could see this going in some sort of 5-color green deck where it's really relevant. For the most part, it's going to be like slightly relevant, but not really worth. That this type of stuff's never really worth like playing unless
One
it's
card for it.
bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It needs to be, for the most part, it needs to be bonus. Though we do have pain lands and standards, so maybe that makes those a bit better.
true.
So you don't have to worry about the
I'm
pain
still gonna
lands.
like on arena accidentally pay life for
Fuck
the.
it up. Yeah,
God
like
damn
tap it
it!
wrong. Um, I
I'll just
do.
auto tapper and it'll for some reason decide I wanted to pay life.
Yeah. So just to be clear, does it say that it doesn't untap the land? Does it? Up to one target land you control becomes a creature
No, it
until.
doesn't untap it.
Okay.
It
So
gives it vigilance. So like you
yes.
can't play this for 3, untap the land and attack.
Hmm.
Um,
But on 4, you can play it,
on
attack with the.
4 you can do it, but like on future turns you can attack with the land without it costing mana because it
Mhm.
has vigilance.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Gotcha. You were just. Yeah. Yeah. I understand. Perfect. Because at first in my mind it was untapping it, and then as we read it, I was like, wait a second. Um,
I
that.
thought so too for a second. I think that actually might be too good. That's like
Yeah.
weirdly the bar. I think that
Yes.
makes it like really good. And it's probably just in my mind really good, but in reality, good.
Good. Yeah. It still is on my no pass list because I like that, and the hexproof is huge, and you know how I like it. I like hexproof, and you know
Yeah.
I hate people stone
It's
raining
not
my
great to
lands.
suit up, Zach, though. This isn't like something I know it says hexproof, but don't play all your pants on
If they're equipment, it's okay.
it.
They just fall off every turn.
So,
Is it that good? Um, no, I do like that card though. All right, Jeff, we're coming to the end of the episode. I think we should pick one more each, and then we'll go to last call and end it because we do have more cards we're going to talk about next week with our worthless slots. So we need to save some of those, of course, of course, of course. Um, so of cards I wanted to talk about, we didn't really talk about Elish Norn, but I think I want to. Um, so,
okay.
so Elish Norn is the big mom, the mommy of the set. So we should probably throw her a bone and just say, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing?" Uh, before all the things that happened to her. So Elish Norn is 2 white for a 3/5 legendary creature of Phyrexian Praetor with vigilance. It says whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1 mana. And then it's 2 and a white to sacrifice 3 other creatures. Then you exile Elish Norn and then return it to the battlefield transformed under your control. Activate only as a sorcery. And she is the Argent Etchings. So chapter 1 of this saga is incubate 2 5 times, then transform all incubator tokens you control. Creatures you control get +2 sorry, this is the next chapter. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain double strike until end turn. And then the final chapter, chapter 3, is destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and Phyrexians. And then you flip it back over to her other side. So she specifically doesn't have a enters the battlefield ability, which I think is what kind of makes Shieldred a bit stronger with if you're flipping back and forth all the time. But in white, sacrificing 3 other creatures is not really that hard to do, especially when you have a bunch of these like wedding announcements around and you're playing like a lot of these white decks just have a bunch of like tokens just like shooting themselves everywhere.
Or if you're black-white Phyrexian sacrifice.
Yes, which is super great because then they get to stick around for the last thing. Though ultimately, I think this is like if you make a bunch of incubator tokens before this flips and then you flip all of them, like your opponent should die in the second chapter. Like giving your creatures +1/+1 and double strike when you just like made a shit ton of creatures. I think like you're netting 1 ultimately because you have to sacrifice 3 plus this one, and then you get 5. But 5/3/3 double strikers is a good. It's a good attack. I don't know, like that. That is strong.
Not bad.
Yeah. And also if your other incubator tokens, like I wonder how strong you need to go in the incubator stuff for this to be amazing. If you like randomly get huge ones that flip with this, but also like, sorry, I'm going too deep into the saga part of this. Like a 4-mana 3/5 vigilance. That's like, sure, like I have a bunch of 1/1s. If you want to attack me, you can. But when you attack me, you lose 2 life or tax all your mana so you don't die. Like, I can block your stuff, and then you have to pay 1 for each creature that blocked your creatures so that you don't lose a bunch of life. Like, that becomes really weird really quickly. Just like,
Yeah, this could be one of those creatures that's like must kill, I guess. If we imagine that it can't turn over, I'm always in my head like comparing it to the
like
Shieldred, not from this set, like the previous ones. Like, all right, it's a big body with an annoying ability.
mhm.
How much does it? But how much does that ability matter? Because obviously, 4-mana 3/5 vigilance is super whatever. So that ability has to be really good. I think without the ability to transform, this card obviously wouldn't get there, but it does transform into quite quite the saga.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think I just have to play with it. I don't really know how to evaluate this because it's like, do I have to kill it? Like that saga's ridiculous. But like there is a deck building cost to be paid and like the situation has to be right. Like it seems amazing in creature mirrors, but this doesn't seem quite as good against like your typical Grixis, which is where I'm like, stupid Grixis ruining everybody's fun.
Yeah. Which is also frustrating because they usually kill you through like losing life and not dealing damage. But this is the bane of the existence for the hypothetical burn deck that we were talking about.
Right.
We're like, yeah, every spell you cast has to cost an extra 1 or you lose 2 life. Though,
Well, or the burn player's just like, F it, I'll deal 3 and take 2. Let's do this.
Yeah, and play that way. But like, yeah, it does seem it seems cool. I like this one. I don't know. There's 3 Praetors I really like, and this is one of them. So this is on my no pass list, and I think it's definitely worth shouting out. So I'm going to, if there's something cool to be done with this card, I'm interested. So, and I like it.
I definitely like this card.
Yeah,
as well. I think it's a good call out. And I spoke about this before, I forget which episode, but as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, that's Magali Villeneuve. And I love that the piece specifically on the back. I think it's really good, like saga piece.
Yeah.
And I saw like the art as a promotion for this card. And I was like, dude, knew the artist instantly and was psyched for the card. Yeah, she did a great job on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
I'm glad you picked that too, because the last card I want to talk about, because we didn't talk enough. We didn't talk enough about Incubate. So I wanted to talk, interestingly, about Norn's Inquisitor, which is 1 and a white for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, incubate 2. And when a permanent you control transforms into a Phyrexian, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Now, maybe I'm crazy, but I think there's something here with these incubates. I think this is pretty good mechanic. And this card, if I'm right that this mechanic is good, then this card is amazing. Because, like, we're already got, like, the Thraben Inspector vibe. I know it costs 2, not 1. But it's already got that Thraben Inspector thing going on of the body plus the artifact is always better than you think it is. In this case, that artifact is a creature. And also, this makes all of the creatures bigger. This card just seems really good. Like, I feel like Incubate is a little more pushed than they usually would do with something like this. And Zach, you know me, I feel like I say this a lot, but there's always some weird fringe deck archetype or like deck, strategy that I'm always like, I'm a fan of that. And I've always been a fan of Tezzeret based strategies. And as soon as I saw Incubate, everything in my brain was going Tezzeret, 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 Tezzeret. Because you guys may not remember this, but a long time ago, there was a set called Neon Dynasty. And they released a Tezzeret Planeswalker in that set that says every turn you can activate an artifact for 2 less.
Right.
Now with Incubate, that means it is free to turn these into creatures every turn. Your turn, your opponent's turn. So basically all of your Incubate is free. So now I'm trying to like imagine some sort of Esper or maybe just blue-white. But basically, we're going to play Tezzeret. We're going to finally have a reason to play the stupid vehicle. Because with Tezzeret, it doesn't suck.
Regular Bay Cluster.
And then we're gonna play all Incubate shit. And you can transform them for free. How broken is that? Is Tezzeret? Tezzeret might finally be good. Plus, he animates them because they are artifacts. And they have +1/+1 counters on them. So they're actually, like, if you animate an Incubate 2, it's a 6/6. And the interesting thing about Incubates is, like, they transform. So they can actually, if you made them on a turn and then the next turn you transform them, they can attack. It's not like exile and then come back as the creature as they've been doing lately. Like, it feels wrong, but a lot of the time they can attack, right? So I think Incubate is really good. I'm excited to find out if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I think this card is really good. And I'm glad I have some Tezzerets sitting around because I don't want to craft them for this hypothesis, but I already have them. So I'm going to like definitely be testing out this Tezzeret Incubate stuff.
Yeah. You kind of lost me there at the beginning a little bit, but then when you said Tezzeret, then I got pretty excited because I will say this specific card, I also opened it at the pre-release and was like, wow, this card's really good. Like, I think this is great. In sealed, I think this card is not very good. I think in a deck that's specifically built to do this thing, it will be much better. And being able to like make all of your incubates stronger is actually super helpful. Or just being like a 2-mana body on your way to the Elish Norn train, as being like, yeah, actually the whole giving my creatures an extra +1/+1 counter is great, but if I have to use this to flip Elish Norn early, I will. Also totally fine. But flipping incubate things for free is really big because a lot of the times you get into the situation where you're like, I have a couple incubates, but like getting another 2/2, a lot of them are 2/2s. Getting another 2/2 right now would not be as good as like playing the stuff in my hand. And then I never really get to a situation where I want to or have to do it. And then I end up trading it with something and it's just like, never feels super good. All the incubate stuff that felt really good was like, there's like a green sorcery that incubates twice for every land you control. So you're like, okay, so your incubate tokens are like 8/8s when you flip them, basically. And then there's like a green-black strategy that like doubles your incubate if you incubate it with this thing, which costs so much more. But like having it like 17 or not, I always say 17. And when I think about random numbers, anytime I think about a random number, I always say the number 17. But specifically, we're talking about this. It doesn't work because if you double something, you're never going to get 17. So like, so like having a 14/14 like Fire Exceeding token attack you is like in like limited, not fun. And you're like, what the hell? But having a bunch of them that you get to flip for free whenever you want, that sounds really exciting. I like that a lot more. And
Well, it's
seems
like it's one of those things that you drop Tezzeret, right?
Mhm.
You have a few incubate totems. You drop Tezzeret. One of them transforms for free. One of them gets animated by like suddenly your board just explodes. One of Tezzeret's things, like you need to do something when you hit the battlefield.
Mhm.
And if you have incubates lying around, suddenly it's like explosive. You get two creatures, and then on their turn, a third creature.
Mhm.
Like it, it finally has that wow factor. Um, I'm kind of here for it.
I like that idea a lot, and I haven't heard that from anybody else. And I really didn't know where you were going with it for the longest time. So I'm
Yeah.
very happy for you.
We're gonna
That
try it. We're gonna try like Sultai. We're gonna start with Esper,
mhm.
but if we have to leave Norn's Inquisitor aside, we have to leave Norn's Inquisitor. But
Yeah, but having I think I do think Norn's Inquisitor having like a really like a 2-drop that makes them is super important. So yeah, I'm for specifically for your deck. I think that's great. I don't know if it's going to be good in draft, but we'll have to see. Um,
and my favorite thing about Norn's Inquisitor, so something I love about cards, by the way, is it looks like a must kill threat in my deck. Oh, it's my incubate deck. This makes all
mhm.
my incubate cards better. But really, I'm just playing it because it is a 2-drop that incubates.
Yes,
And so people
which
point removal at it, and I'm like, okay.
yeah, which is definitely its strength
Yeah.
because like it doesn't trade super well. It does. It's just a 1/1. So that
Right.
is the part that I can play it like sick. I got my good 2-drop, and I'm like, wait, I just have a 1/1. I'm like, oh, this is
Later, it
oh
like blocks for Tezzeret. It chump blocks for Tezzeret, but
exactly, and that's what it does. So um,
it's not
and
worth using your go for the throat on.
exactly, or whatever burn spell or whatever.
I guess go
Um,
for the that's a bad example because I have so many artifact creatures.
yeah, so
Like
then like
it's
it would be
probably pretty
good.
reasonable to point it at
They're like,
this.
ah, I'm gonna get rid of this in my sideboard anyway. Nice. I love it. I'm excited for the deck. I always love when you drop random brews on me while we're recording, so that's great. Gotta be sick. Jeff, let's go to last call. So we got to rate these beers that we drank this evening, and we got 2 stouts, so it's a stout off. Though, as always, we rate beers on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. And don't feel bad. We don't mean any of the things we say about this towards Magic players who are in those specific tiers. So if we say something like bronze beers are fucking horrible and you can't drink them and they're worthless, don't feel like we're talking about you personally because we're not. However, bronze beers are that bad and they should be poured out and thrown away, and no one should ever have to drink that beer. Jeff, what are silver beers?
Silver beers are one step up from that. They're just uninteresting. Macro brews tend to fall into that category.
Gold beers are fine, but you wouldn't really think about them very often.
Platinum, again, one step up. They're solid. You drink them again.
Diamond beers are exceptional. You will talk about this to your friends, you'll bring them some to drink, and you show up to parties with them.
Mythic, these are the best of the best. These are your favorite beers, and you won't stop talking about them.
That is right. All right. We got 2 stouts. Do you know which stout you're going to go with this evening? Because I got mine locked and loaded. Woof, man, Jeff, I already finished my beer. Maybe you've been talking more than I have, but I'm feeling it.
I think I'm ready.
Okay, cool. I got mine in my hand, and here we go.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. The darkness. Yes.
I'm sorry, I already recycled my can. So
Classic Jeff. Classic. But I knew that this is the one within the first couple sips of the coffee one. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna pick the other one.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Yeah. Just because, I think over the years coffee stouts have been like hitting me like not the same way.
Yeah, for me, it has like some sort of acidity. I guess it's the acidity in the coffee. But I took this first sip and I was like, I kind of definitely preferred the other one, but I'm gonna let
Yeah.
my taste buds like acclimate and then try to make that decision, but
Yeah, I
it was
think
only confirmed.
yeah, I think a stout with coffee was like it just felt very it had a bigger body and a bit viscous and like it had all those flavors that you would expect from this, but maybe I was just hoping for something a little bit smoother. It was definitely a bit sharper
Mhm.
than I was hoping. Um,
Right.
and not necessarily what I'm hoping for from a stout, just in general, I think. Um, I drink a lot of coffee as it is, so sometimes when I go to beers, I like the taste of coffee a lot. And I drink my coffees really black and dark, but I maybe I just want something else from beer, you know? Maybe that's where I am with my life right now. And
Yeah.
I don't
Honestly, maybe if the beer just like smelled like coffee,
yeah,
but
and
didn't really
then
taste it,
but
just had
tasted
that like
like
espresso aroma,
yeah,
that'd be
maybe I'd
nice.
I was gonna say closer to like a tiramisu, but that doesn't really taste like beer.
Yeah,
But it has like, you know, there's like a espresso in it. But
for
um
sure. Yeah.
anyway, so a stout with coffee, probably give it like gold because I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
gonna go
gold.
close to it. Great
Which is
brewery though,
a
but
shockingly low rating for Bellwoods.
it is really strange. But you know, every once in a while, Bellwoods puts out something that's like a, you know, they focus on like sours and IPAs, and so
Yeah,
stouts are not
it's not
necessarily their
not
thing.
necessarily their wheelhouse. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so the darkness. Jeff, what do you think about this? Where's your head at?
Well, I'm curious what you think about it because I've had it a
Right,
bunch
right,
of
right, right.
times.
So it looks super familiar, and I almost feel like I either because I was there filming a movie last year, so I don't even know if I like drank it when I was there or something, but it feels like in a really nice sweet spot. It feels really solid and like smooth and like what I want an oatmeal stout to like taste like, but it also doesn't it only enhanced my experience of talking about the set and kind of shitting on it and didn't distract me at all or take me away from what we were doing, which is I think maybe where I'm coming with beers a little bit, like mellowing out
Right. Yeah.
and being like, you know what, I want something that just like bumps everything up a notch a little bit. It just brings it up just a little. And so this one felt great. um yeah, I liked it a lot. I don't know. I'm probably giving it like high platinum because I do want it again, but you know, a lot of the times when I'm going for a stout, I feel like I know that I'm like crossing my lines when I say this, but something with more alcohol that's like, all right, and now it's time for the stout, you know,
Right.
tends to be that category. But I'm sure I'll pick this up again. I don't really if I see it, um,
Right.
I don't really have a doubt that I will snag it. But but I already have some other easy drinking dark beers that kind of fit that bill. But this one will probably go in rotation.
Yeah. I think that's pretty close to how I feel about it. Like it's been around since basically been drinking beer in Ottawa, so it's somewhat famous in Ottawa. It's like the stout, the local
Mm-hmm.
stout that's really good. I am also like, as you know, light dark beers aren't necessarily my favorite style. Like dark beers, I like them big. So I'm pretty much right where you are, where I'm like, this beer is really good. It's just not my go-to
Mm-hmm.
choice. Like a 5.5% oatmeal stout. It's not something I order that often. Um, but if I do, like I'll pick this one. It's
Mm-hmm.
really good, and I'll
Yeah.
recommend this to anyone who says they like that kind of thing. Um, like it's mostly a stylistic choice that keeps me away from it. So for me, again, it's kind of that same thing, that border of high platinum, low diamonds, uh, depending on whether I'm trying to rate it for like my personal preferences, which would be platinum, or like how good I think the beer is in some sort of more general sense, maybe diamond. But yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just a really good easy drinking oatmeal stout. And if you like that kind of thing, you're gonna like this.
Yeah, it's good. Maybe it'll fit in with your your Phyrexian deck is like called the Darkness. Um, the Darkness
No,
consumes.
that deck requires at least an 11% Imperial Stout.
I see. I
Yeah,
see. All right,
yeah.
the Imperial
And
Darkness.
maybe two or three. That's how I build it after three Imperial Stouts. And
Gotcha.
then
I feel like the opposite, where you build it sober and then you try to play it, and then you have to figure out, is the deck bad or I bad, and like that's the weird. That's the time where your brain is all
no,
broken.
it's Hemingway, man. You
Yeah,
write drunk and you
and it's
edit sober.
sober.
Yeah.
So yeah, what the fuck was this? What is going on with this?
Oh no. Let me cut this. Let me
Yeah,
cut
this is
those.
bad. Then
But
later,
this is pretty good. I
yeah,
can't believe I found that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then later that night, you drink some more, and you're like, "What happened to all the cool cards?" No, 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 no.
No, no, let me
And you do go back and forth, and there's a cycle. That's great. All right, well, Jeff, it has been a long, great episode of just shitting on stuff and finding good things in the rough.
Yeah.
It's definitely not what I was expecting when we started the evening, but I'm really happy that we went through it.
Yeah.
So let's go to closing time. So you can always reach us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
You may also run into us on MTG Arena itself with the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me at Zulberg. That is ZeulBerg on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Best place is the Discord channel. I go by Regular Jeff. Would love to see any and all of your March of the Machines brews, especially if they involve Tezzeret and Incubator tokens. You can find the link for the Discord channel in the show notes.
Yeah. And please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify and leave us a review there. Go to YouTube, like our videos, watch them, leave some comments. We've been having a lot of fun talking to some people there. And just all the engagement. It really helps the channel grow. And if you like us, then yay, let's grow the channel. This has been the Arena Regulars,
reminding you that this is the most complicated Magic set of all time.
Good night. All right, that's fine.